Human rights group, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, is asking the federal government to disclose within 7 days the exact amount of public funds stolen by former military head of state, General Sani Abacha. SERAP's question is contained in a Freedom of Information request, also seeking details of spending of about $5 billion recovered loot since the return of democracy in 1999. A statement from SERAP says the two FOI requests, dated February 14th, were sent to the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, as well as the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami. According to the statement, we are concerned that substantial part of the estimated $5 billion returned Abacha loot since 1999 may have been diverted, restolen or mismanaged, and in any case remain unaccounted for. The rights group insists that publishing details of projects on which Abacha loot has been spent would allow the public know the specific projects carried out. It would also reveal the areas of the country in which the projects have been implemented, as well as the officials that may be responsible for any alleged diversion or mismanagement of the loot. As we enter into New Week, the Supreme Court of Nigeria is expected to consider the application of the People's Democratic Party and the sacked governor of Imo State, Mr. Emeka Ihedioha, for review of the judgment of January 14, 2020, which removed him from office and declared Senator Hope Uzodinma governor. Some lawyers and civil society organizations are speaking on the matter and what they think the Supreme Court should do based on their fear that the Apex Court made an error in its verdict. Our political correspondent, Seun Akimaloye, reports.
January 14th, 2020, the Supreme Court spoke and everything changed. Emeka Ihedioha ceased to be governor, removed, and Hope Uzodinma holds sway as Imo State governor. A month after, the dust is not yet settled, even as the highest court of the land has spoken. A group of lawyers in Lagos State across different civil society organizations are putting some facts forward, insisting that the Supreme Court judgment should not be allowed to stay.
If the Supreme Court has not determined that question of spread, of geographical spread, the Supreme Court cannot make a return.
The issue of whether it can be reversed, yes, the Supreme Court has said so. As human beings, we are bound to make mistakes.
First, they say Senator Hope Uzodinma's declaration as winner of the election is unconstitutional because, according to them, of the provision of Section 179, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution. That portion reads, "For a candidate to be declared as duly elected, he or she will not only have to have the highest number of valid votes, but also should have a spread of 25% of the votes in 2/3 of the local governments in a state." In the case of Imo State, 2/3 of the 27 local government areas is 18. On the flip side, they are also arguing that Emeka Ihedioha of the PDP did not also meet the constitutional spread required by the Constitution, having scored 25% in only 14 out of the 27 local government areas.
Either the PDP's candidate or the APC's candidate had 2/3 across the state. PDP had 14, APC had 2. So if we are even saying 14 didn't get it, how then does 2 get it?
And this is what these lawyers and rights groups are asking for.
You must do a rerun.
The case is expected to be appraised on Tuesday by the Supreme Court, but it appears whatever decision the court comes out with is still the ultimate. Seun Akimaloye, Channels Television News.
Governor Samuel Ortom has challenged the federal government to establish tourist sites in 2 of the communities in Ogadibu local government councils of the state where there are no mosquitoes, noting that tourists and investors would like to find out why. Mr. Ortom made the call during the official commissioning of Nihotua Makodi campus for North Central region as part of the federal government's initiative of diversifying the nation's economy. Our community report tonight examines the claim by the Benue State Governor with simple experiments to test its validity.
Benue State, north-central Nigeria. In a temperate region like the country, one will be hard-pressed to find a habitat free of mosquitoes. But in Andi Ibila community, the locals lay claim to exactly that.
There's no any mosquito in my community. The reason why the mosquito is not here in our community is that we are in a hilltop and we didn't have any sickness of mosquito in my community.
They even conduct a test to convince our reporter that mosquitoes are non-existent in the area.
Since the federal government has deemed it necessary to send people to come and inspect whether there is a mosquito here, they have come down to see it themselves. And sincerely speaking, there is no mosquito here. All the experiment has been done, and there is no mosquito.
And even as they await scientific corroboration, they believe it's an added incentive for tourism, as the governor, Samuel Otom, has called for the establishment of tourist sites in Andi Ibila, in Oju, and Ogbadebo local councils during the launch of the Makurdi campus of the Nigerian Institute for Hospitality and Tourism.
In Benue State, we have been moving in the same direction. We believe that hospitality and tourism business hold a lot of promise to the well-being of the state, and that is why since our inception we have been working relentlessly to promote and deepen the prospects of these potentially viable sectors.
The Benue State Commissioner for Information and Culture expounds on the gains of the Makurdi campus.
This ministry hosted an interactive stage meeting of tourism and hospitality stakeholders. It was a brainstorming session which provided effective and creative roadmaps on how best to grow the tourism and hospitality sector of our state.
Benue State prides itself on being the food basket of the nation. And if the tourism potential can be harnessed to a great degree, then the commercial benefits will be added to its internally generated revenue. And visitors will experience firsthand the added realities of a reported mosquito-free environment in Nigeria.
Hard to understand, no mosquitoes. I know. A federal government will no longer criminalize the activities of artisanal miners in the country. And that's according to the Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Mr. Olalekun Adigbite, who says the federal government is having a rethink as a way of creating jobs and empowering people. Over the years, unlicensed miners are seen as illegal practitioners who face arrest and prosecution by the federal government, while several communities continue to bear the consequences of their illegal activities. But the minister says the artisanal mining sector is globally recognized as a major contributor to economies in terms of mineral production, employment, poverty alleviation, and rural development. He said this at a consultative meeting on the formalization of artisanal miners.
But what we found out with the artisanal miners is the practice, as it is inimical to their health, to their safety. The methods employed by artisanal miners, this crude implements and all that, is not very safe. So we said, look, let's bring the artisanal miners into the fold, formalize them. If we formalize them, we could teach them safer methods of mining. One, that will increase their winnings, whatever they realize. They put more money in their pocket, and all we're asking in return is just a little royalty, 3 to 5%. The World Bank is supporting us in doing this, and we've got eminent consultants, Sofreco. They're doing this by remote sensing, an actual visitation to sites. After the remote sensing, establishing where these activities occur, then they go out there, meet these people, and of course, bring them into the fold. What this does essentially is to help the miners to help themselves. We want to avail you of the opportunities that we have.
Before the creation of states, Nigeria's development was driven by the federal governments, the northern, western, midwestern and eastern regions. Though historians, philosophers and economists differ on the most effective system of government, one thing they agree on is that collaboration is a catalyst for economic growth and development. This year, collaboration for improved security will perhaps be the priority of the 36 states and 6 geopolitical regions in Nigeria. What other sectors can the states and regions collaborate, and how can it be effective? To share insights on regional diversity, collaboration and development is Babajide Ogusowo, Channels Television's information analyst. Thank you for joining us again tonight. Always a pleasure having you on the program. So this is what we're looking at today. We've seen some State Houses of Assembly work towards passing security bills. Is there a strong case, though, for regional collaboration? Haven't seen much of that. And what are the challenges and the opportunities that are bound concerning this?
I really think there's a strong case for collaboration. Exactly on this day, half a century ago, on the 16th of February 1968, the world placed the first 911 call. It was exactly on this day that the first 911 call was placed. So tonight, I'd like to place 2 911 calls. My first call is for effective collaboration among states in the region. And my second 911 call is for efficient collaboration among regions in Nigeria. I'd like us to take a quick look into the real case for diversity and collaboration in Nigeria. And if you look at that, the evidence we have today shows that 68% of all foreign flights into Nigeria comes to southwest Nigeria. The 2 million foreign flights that come into the country annually, 68% of that comes to southwest Nigeria. We have evidence as well that shows that 70% of all foreign capital that came into Nigeria last year, over $20 billion came into the country last year, but 70% of that amount came to southwest Nigeria again. We also have evidence that 95% of everything we export in this country goes out through the southwest. So what does all of this mean? It means that security really isn't our headache. The major headache is lack of development and poor collaboration. Let me make myself clear. Security is important, but security is only a symptom. Let's treat the disease. And from the evidence we have, the solution to that disease is development through collaboration, because we clearly can see that the southwest is the bloodline of Nigeria. In other words, what blood is to human beings is what the southwest is to Nigeria.
So how can the other states attract more partners, especially from the private sector?
The first is rely less on the federation account. Let's look at how much money the states and the regions receive from the federation account. And if we focus on that, here's what you will notice. The Southwest isn't number 1 on the list, neither is the Southwest number 2. Last year, out of the 2.4 trillion naira that all the states received, the Southwest received 14% of that amount. 2 other regions, the South, South, and the Northwest, received more money than the Southwest. Again, what does all of this mean? It means that there are secrets to development, not just collecting money from the federation account. And for the Southwest, their secrets is in 3 things. The first is identifying your comparative advantage. The second is exploiting that comparative advantage. And the third, collaboration. Collaboration especially with local partners in the private sector. And that is how the Southwest has been able to do it. And what we now need to see is to look at the other 5 regions and ensure that all the other states within each region are able to collaborate better. And the solution is, how do they collaborate? The secret is this. You know, years ago, when people come to the market and they want to exchange, trade by barter, I bring in tomatoes, you bring in your yam, and we collaborate. So the secret and the question that should be on the lips of every state governor is, what do you have? And once they're able to answer that question, they will be able to find the real secrets to collaboration. All states must answer that question, what do you have?
And I hope they're thinking about it now. Babajide, a pleasure having you.
I know
on
I don't
News
have
at
more
10.
time.
Well, one of these days you will, don't worry.